My name is Asha Samput and welcome to this new edition of Business Africa, your magazine dedicated to the continent's business and economic news. As usual, you can win $150 in our Business Africa game. More details later, but first, today's top stories. Spotlight on the African Union's Silencing the Guns campaign. An Africa free of conflict and humanitarian disaster, a challenge at hand. Example, in Angola, the country is recovering from civil war thanks to its inhabitants, but also to nature.
Precisamos de conservar os animais, conservar a floresta, conservar peixe, sabendo qual o uso que é mais importante para nós conservar esse território.
Unemployed graduates and microcredit. It's a winning cocktail to supply Khartoum with vegetables.
I completed my studies but couldn't get work, so I came here. Like so many Sudanese women, I've always dreamt of being independent, having my own space and my own ideas.
17 countries, the same legislation and the same business culture. For 27 years, OHADA has supported investors' quest for security and guarantees.
6 or 7 African countries feature among those with the highest growth rates over the past decade. That's impressive.
Now is the time for a new chapter for Angola after the civil war, which left in its wake thousands of civilians crippled and dead. The country wants to embrace peace, but also benefit from the economic and social impact of conservation efforts. We continue our Voices for Peace series inspired by the African Union's Silencing the Guns initiative by listening to the testimonies of those seeking a new way of life, those still clearing the minefields, and a very inspiring project of a major new wildlife sanctuary.
Eu fui raptada em 1998 no lugar do meu camisa e eu fiquei na comuna do Yuva a fazer travessia do rio Quando, fazendo transbordo de material para o tempo da UNITA, para procurar a vida, não te matar. Como não conseguia levar na cabeça, então me incluíram no grupo que faz transbordo da canoa. Então ali é o motivo que me faz para mim fazer esse trabalho. É só para salvar a vida e conseguir sobreviver.
Angola is a beautiful country, but it's got a savage history. 500 years of colonial rule followed by war, either independent struggle from the Portuguese or also, the civil war itself, which to begin with was a huge conventional conflict between two big conventional forces, then falling off into a guerrilla type conflict, almost like a resistance type struggle. So that leaves a legacy. There's a lot of explosive items in the ground.
The peace in Angola since 2002 has lasted. I am a South African and we fought the Angolan bush war against the Angolan government. With that as the backdrop, the landmines, the fact that the government didn't know who was living in that part of Angola exactly, whether they were dangerous or armed. And we found this incredibly peaceful community, the Chokwe and Luchazi, people that accepted us and guided us down their own rivers, down the Kwandu, the Quito, the Kwanafal. These incredible adventures we had with these people. Yes, the peace is held in Angola. Every year, people lose their lives to mines in Angola. So that is a definite threat.
Na verdade, é um orgulho. Eu pessoalmente também me orgulho de ter sido parte desse contributo de minagem ou do acabamento ou do termo das minas em Angola. É um trabalho, na verdade, muito importante para qualquer país ou para qualquer sociedade, porque as minas, na verdade, impedem o desenvolvimento de um país. O trabalho não terminou em termos de desminagem, Na verdade, ainda existem outras áreas, outros campos para serem desminados, né? Mas num espaço de 3 anos, este é o desafio que nós temos de terminar com os campos que ainda existem.
Yeah, so between the beginning of April last year and the end of March this year, we've cleared over 3,000 mines and over 1 million square meters.
Precisamos de conservar os animais, conservar a floresta, conservar peixe, sabendo qual o uso que é mais importante para nós conservar esse território. Então, também para nós conseguirmos se dar bem com os animais, de agora até adiante. Então, essa coisa, eu acho que outras coisas que não estou a me lembrar, coisa que eu vejo mais importante.
The future of conservation in Africa is local. That's people like Elias and the Luchazi that live around the sources in Angola. They are our guides, companions up in those landscapes. They've shown us all of the source lakes, the peatlands, helped us find all of the new species, 122 new species to science we've found with those local communities.
De antes os animais aqui era demasiado, mas os elefantes, os leões, onças, zebras também aqui, rinos, aqui estava bastantes.
The wildlife of southeast Angola is traumatized. All of the animals are still there, but at very low numbers. A lot of them are night adapted, so you only really see them at night in our camera traps and never in person. They're almost like ghosts. They are coming back. The last 18 years of peace have seen some of the populations bounce back. Also in the last 18 years we've seen lots of local people coming back that were displaced during the war.
Gostei muito de estudar a vida das aves, assim como os pássaros, ou como vamos falar, como os animais terrestres e os animais aquáticos, vendo como ele vive a vida dele. Eu gostaria muito de ter a sabedoria do que cada um dos animais ou cada um dos seres viventes que necessita, o que é mais necessário na vida dele, o que necessita para ser feliz na vida dele. Eu gostaria de estudar essas coisas como a base da minha cabeça.
By 2030, we hope that in partnership with government and local communities that we've been able to make investments of tens of millions of dollars into those communities living around the source lakes, up in the water tower in the Angolan highlands, investing in community cooperatives and associations to support alternative livelihoods and sustainable traditional livelihoods.
Já descobrimos que no rio não pode se lavar com sabão muito porque danifica peixe, danifica os animais aquáticos. Já nos explicaram que a floresta não se usa assim. Muitas coisas que nós estamos a aprender mais com a vossa exploração.
Rivers are wonderful metaphors for that, crossing these borders and becoming them. We need to break down those barriers and realize peace in Africa.
And next week we'll find out how the hope of one person can inspire peace amid one of the continent's toughest conflicts, the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon. Precisely to help the populations of the Sahel hit by both terrorist attacks and climate change, the International Fund for Agricultural Development and several international organizations are putting in place significant resources. The target: 123,000 rural households, or nearly 1 million people in cross-border areas of G5 countries, as well as Senegal. This will benefit from improved access to land, inputs, training and business activities through a program of more than $180 million over 6 years. Almost $26 billion, this is the incredible amount Africa loses each year, mainly due to the shifting of profits from multinational corporations to tax havens. According to several civil society organizations, such as the Tax Justice Network, this amount is equivalent to more than 52% of the continent's health expenditure. To remedy this, there is only one solution according to these analysts: the transparency of complete company data, which should be published country by country in order to better identify the origin of fraud. The United States has removed Sudan from the blacklist of countries supporting terrorism, where it appeared since 1993, enough to stimulate an economy that is trying to reconnect with international trade circuits, but also to facilitate the employment of young graduates very affected by unemployment. We had followed these previously unemployed young people who became the first suppliers of vegetables to the Khartoum market. Take a look.
Afra has been working on this Sudanese farm for 10 years, growing vegetables, including cucumbers, lettuce and peppers. Despite having a degree in economics, Afra started off working in the fields, but now is in charge of 4 people.
I completed my studies but couldn't get work, so I came here. Like so many Sudanese women, I've always dreamt of being independent, having my own space and my own ideas. But I wasn't alone because I had the support of my father and my family. I worked hard to get where I am, and I gave it all I had. I'm very proud to be where I am today.
Graduate unemployment is a serious problem in today's Africa. Some see this as the direct result of college degrees being ill-adapted to market demand, and steps are being taken to redress the balance. Over the past decade, Sudan has helped finance work projects for graduates. In 2008, 300,000 of them were hired or received aid to set up small and medium-sized businesses, with backing from a multi-donor fund. This was the case with the Abu Halima Greenhouse project, that counts Afra among its numerous employees.
They are three person chief supervisor. Now they assist. They are working with agricultural assistant, and we have also 12 supervisor. Each two greenhouse have one supervisor. Inside the greenhouse, we have 2 farmers.
I'm looking into ways of reproducing the idea of the greenhouses. I would like to have the same thing for myself and my family.
The Abu Halima Greenhouse project is one of the Islamic Development Bank's proudest achievements to date. It was a collaboration with the Bank of Khartoum and OHADA, a microfinance mechanism. Thanks to this system of funding, there are now 25 greenhouse projects that have become the leading suppliers of fresh vegetables to the Khartoum region, with an annual production of 1,200 tons.
OHADA started in 2011 by the inauguration and signing ceremony of IDB in the 2011. The company, of course, had high ambitions, and it started with a great initiative and a great fund of 250 million. And that fund had also not just the banks in contributing to that fund, also the zakah being holding 25% of that fund. So it is now a compulsory for all banks to become to hold a portfolio of microfinance, which is 12% of that portfolio.
The moringa is another successful example of Islamic finance in Sudan. This multi-purpose tree is highly in demand for its seeds, which are used to make an oil that is popular with the cosmetics industry. But the tree's leaves, bark and timber also have 101 other uses. The Green Ishraka company has based its business on the moringa. Situated 35 kilometers from Khartoum, the company has planted 30 hectares with the miraculous tree, which is good for business and also helps combat climate change.
It can absorb 16 kilograms of carbon dioxide. a human being put in the air 32 kilograms of carbon dioxide. So 2 trees will absorb what a human being put carbon dioxide.
The Green Ishraka company does not just provide a monthly wage for hundreds of employees. The whole community reaps the rewards of planting the moringa, which helps fight desertification. In a country where the desert has crept 100 kilometers further south in just 50 years, and thanks to the moringa, young people are developing their entrepreneurial flair. With the money he's made on the plantations, Abdel Rahim wants to set up his own business.
I would like to find work as a chauffeur and buy a car with the money I earn. That's my plan. I'm going to invest the money I will earn doing that job.
The Abu Halima Greenhouse Project and the Ishraka company are shining examples of how graduate unemployment can be beaten. With encouragement to set up their own ventures and the right access to funding, unemployed graduates can play their part in their country's development.
Welcome back to the second part of our show. More than 10 days have already passed since Africa opened a new chapter in its economic history with the entry into force of the AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, operational since January 1st, targets the development of intra-African trade through the gradual liberalization of 90% of customs duties. Trudy Hazenberg, Executive Director of the Trade Law Center in South Africa, will tell us what will happen concretely from this year on the borders of African countries and what will be the impact on tax revenues.
What we will most likely see is that consignments of some goods from exporters in one of the state parties will come to a border post where the customs officers will check the documentation. So that will be the customs declaration, the administrative documents, any standard certificates, if it is, for example, food products that are being exported. So the customs officers at the border post will be checking all of those certificates, and those consignments that will then be cleared and be able to move into a neighboring country or to transit through that country to their final destination. Some of the small and least developed countries rely quite a lot on tariff revenue, the border taxes that are collected from international trade. So it is definitely a concern for some countries because as they reduce the import duties, they expect that tariff revenue will decrease. Afrixim Bank, so Africa's Export-Import Bank, has launched an adjustment facility with an initial amount of $1 billion. And that facility, it's a loan facility, is designed specifically to assist smaller and obviously least developed countries that experience a loss of revenue or whose companies may find challenges as more imports come into the domestic market, and they may need support in order to deal with a more competitive environment in their domestic economies.
Well, it was Trudy Hazenberg, Executive Director of the Trade Law Center in South Africa. In the meantime, African countries have decided to unite their strength in favor of conservation and biodiversity. At the end of the year, 24 countries in East and Southern Africa have decided to create a data center in Nairobi that will allow informed decisions on the conservation of species and the fight against wildlife trafficking. 27 years of efforts to harmonize business law. 17 African countries have succeeded in making OHADA an attractive space, which marks progress in the doing business ranking. From guarantees to investor security, the reforms undertaken have been considerable, but there are still issues to be resolved. Investors who have chosen to invest in the OHADA zone confided their experiences to David Thiombiano in the last part of our series, Business Law is Your Business.
6 or 7 African countries feature among those with the highest growth rates over the past decade. That's impressive.
In Africa, Fabrice Le Sachet sees nothing but fabulous opportunities to be taken. A prime example is the carbon market, where Era Group, the company he founded in 2006 on graduating in marketing, is particularly well placed.
We have just signed a contract for more than 2 million tons of African carbon offset credits with South Korea.
Every country on the continent is vying to win over investors, entrepreneurs who will mobilize billions to develop projects, boost growth and create jobs. But understandably, what these business people want, above all, is a maximum return on their investments. Only the promise of a healthy profit margin can incite an entrepreneur to launch a business venture.
Africa is the hardest, most expensive place in the world for prospection.
Alexandre Villegrain's advice for investors taking their first steps in Africa: leave your preconceived ideas behind. The new breed of investors needs to understand that the notion of a backward, poverty-stricken continent plagued by disease, war, ignorance and corruption is a thing of the past. If you want to succeed, you must be able to offer the goods and services a changing society needs and demands.
In a lot of African countries nowadays, you pay with your cell phone. That goes to show how developed this territory is. An entrepreneur coming to Africa must be offering services that he himself would like to see.
The adventure begins with prospection, feasibility studies, a business plan, and support from financial backers. The next step is words to actions. The promoter and his or her team will have to overcome numerous administrative, political, and socio-cultural constraints. The entrepreneur must be armed with patience and stamina.
It would be nice to speed things up a little, but you have to respect the various institutions and respect your counterparts. It takes a certain amount of time for people to assimilate what you want to do in their country, so you have to move at their speed.
Company leaders have got the message. They cannot run their businesses in Africa from behind a desk in Paris, London, or New York. If you want to be accepted by local teams and partners, you have to be present and understand their culture and traditions.
When I go to Cameroon, I'm Cameroonian. When I go to Gabon, I'm Gabonese. In Congo, I'm Congolese. My business is local. I'm not French. I'm from the country where I'm doing business.
And it is a winning formula, especially if the investments are made over the long term, with a win-win approach that capitalizes on local skills. Working with local businesses provides vital knowledge of the terrain, as well as saving valuable time when dealing with local authorities.
Personal relationships are extremely important in Africa, maybe more so than elsewhere. It isn't enough to just turn up with a great project. You also need to know how to explain your idea and sell it locally. An investor from Morocco, for example, cannot just turn up and make a profit. It is important that everybody reaps the rewards, especially the local economy.
Doing business in Africa comes with its share of complications. These may be political, social, economic, legal, or related to questions of governance. Governments are well aware of these problems and are constantly taking steps to improve the situation. Since 1993, 17 countries have decided to enact uniform business laws to provide greater security for investors. These follow guidelines set out by OHADA, the Organization for the Harmonization of Business Law in Africa.
So yes, I would say that this is a boost for development in countries where OHADA law is applied. OHADA was a wonderful thing. It is wonderful and we need to maintain it. In fact, it is becoming increasingly widespread.
Juridical security is well established within the OHADA zone. However, a number of observers argue that there is another obstacle to overcome, namely judicial security. Although OHADA already has a supranational court of appeal, a common court of justice and arbitration, with an established track record for taking courageous decisions, many call for national jurisdictions to give judges greater independence.
Our businesses have had problems because going to court in Africa can be complicated. It's good to uphold the rights of the weaker party, but sometimes the stronger party has done nothing wrong.
Here is one entrepreneur who says that it will take more than the promise of fabulous returns to entice investors. With 50 years of experience working on the continent, he insists that there is one element you cannot do without. You have to like Africa.
Sometimes you'll get taken for a ride. There will be good and bad deals. What can I say? But if you love Africa, you'll win 50% of the time. If you come to Africa thinking it's an El Dorado, I'll make money here, well, you will certainly lose out.
Well, it's now time to reward our loyal viewers of Business Africa. It's up to you to answer to the following questions. If you're drawn among those who have given the correct answers, you will win $150. This is game number 541, so listen carefully to the two questions that follow, and good luck. First question. How many refugees were displaced during the civil war in Angola? 4 million, 8 million, or 1 million? Second question. How many countries are OHADA members? 25, 16, or 17? You know the answers. You can participate now by going to our website africaonair.com, answer the questions, fill out your form, and good luck. And of course, don't forget to include your contact details, name, address, telephone, email, and the number of the game you are entering with the answers, of course. This game, for example, is game number 541. The winner will receive $150 as our winner this week. Congratulations! You gave the correct answers to our game number 537. Here are the details. First question. How many francophones are there in the world? Answer: 300 million. Second question. How long does it take to start a business in the OHADA space? Answer: 72 hours. Well, that's it. Business Africa is over for today. I'll see you next week, same time, same channel with Initiative Africa. I will speak to Alexandra Palt, Executive Director of the L'Oreal Foundation. She will tell us about the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science program. In the meantime, you can catch this program again on our website, africaonair.com, as well as on all our social media channels. And feel free to share, like, and comment by using the hashtag Business Africa TV show. Take care of yourselves, happy holidays, and see you next week. Bye-bye.